It was a torrential rainy night. Ethan Hale only had one umbrella. I stood at the entrance of the office building, the hem of my dress soaked through. He spotted me, yet tilted the umbrella fully over Sophia Reed's head. Sophia huddled close to him. Don't be mad at Ethan. Layla, I've always had a weak constitution. Ethan frowned at me. Call a ride home. Don't make a scene. In that instant, I suddenly lost the will to fight. I'd had enough of standing in this rain. Rain hammered against the glass doors. Water droplets rolling down the neon sign overhead. Car wheels sliced through puddles on the street, kicking up murky white splashes. I stood on the office steps, clutching a box of antacids I'd brought for Ethan. The corners of the box soft and crumpled in my grip. He had chronic stomach issues. He'd pulled a last-minute overtime shift tonight. And I'd been afraid he'd skip dinner and drink coffee on an empty stomach again. I'd taken the subway 40 minutes across the city to bring him the medicine. I'd barely reached the entrance when I saw him step out of the elevator. His black suit jacket was slung over one arm. His shirt sleeves rolled up to his forearms, and an umbrella hung from his other hand. Sophia walked beside him. She wore a white dress, held a stack of folders to her chest, her hair falling loose over her shoulders, her toes carefully skirting the puddles on the ground. When she saw me, she curved her lips into a small smile. Layla, you're here too. A cold lump formed in my throat. Rain seeped down my calves into my shoes, and my toes went numb from the cold. Ethan looked at me. His first words weren't asking if I was cold, or why I'd come. He said, "You didn't bring an umbrella." I held out the antacids. The forecast said the rain would stop by 9. I thought I'd make it in time. He didn't take the box. His gaze drifted to the folders in Sophia's hands. Sophie just finished her proposal and has to present it tomorrow. I'm walking her home first. My fingers rose midair. The plastic wrap around the medicine box was damp from the rain, sticking slick and clammy to my palm. Sophia leaned half a step closer to Ethan, her voice soft and low. Ethan, you should walk Lila home. I can wait for a ride. Even as she offered to wait, her fingers curled tight around the cuff of his shirt. Ethan glanced down at her, his brow furrowing. Sophie, you just had a fever last week. Don't push it. I stared at that hand. Slender, pale fingers curled around his shirt cuff, nails painted pale pink, pressed against the same shirt I'd ironed smooth the night before. That shirt, I'd washed it. Those cuffs, I'd pressed them. The antacids, I'd bought them. And yet he lifted the umbrella, holding it steady and sure over Sophia's head. The canopy bloomed open, muffling the sound of the rain, tucking Sophia fully into its shelter. I stood outside its shadow. Wind-driven rain lashed my face, stinging my eyes until I could barely keep them open. Ethan finally reached out and took the antacids, impatience thick in his tone. Call a ride home. I'll cover the fare. I held his gaze. Ethan, you only have one umbrella. I know. I pressed on. So you're choosing her. His expression darkened. Layla, don't make this sound worse than it is. She's just my childhood friend. Sophia bit her lip. Layla, you've got the wrong idea. Ethan and I grew up together. He's just used to looking out for me. Please don't fight with him over me. I laughed. My lips were cold and stiff from the rain, and the motion stung. Used to it. Irritation flickered across Ethan's eyes. It's late. Don't make a scene out here. It's embarrassing. Embarrassing. I'd waited for him from 6 o'clock until 9:30. My phone held only one message from him. Busy. Don't disturb. I'd braved the rain to bring him medicine, scared his stomach would act up, and in his mouth, I was the one being embarrassing. I slowly pulled my hand back. My nail scraped across the medicine box, leaving a pale white mark. It wasn't the rain that was cold. It was standing in the wrong place. Ethan stepped down the steps, umbrella in hand. Sophia glanced back at me, her eyes downcast, but a faint, smug little smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. Go on home, Layla, she said. You'll catch a cold. I watched them walk into the rain, the umbrella tilted heavily toward Sophia. Ethan's shoulder was soaked through within seconds. He used to tilt the umbrella just like that when he picked me up from work. I'd thought it was love. Turns out an umbrella doesn't go to whoever's coldest. It goes to whoever he wants to protect. My phone buzzed. The rideshare app said there was a 27-minute wait. Wind billowed up through my skirt, and I clenched my jaw against the cold. I didn't wait for the ride. I turned and walked straight into the rain. Rain beat down on my head, trickling down my hairline and under my collar. My back was soaked, fabric clinging cold to my skin, seeping inch by inch into my bones. When I reached the intersection, I pulled the spare raincoat I'd bought for Ethan out of my bag. The clear plastic coat was folded neatly. I stared at it for 2 seconds, then dropped it straight into a trash can. The plastic bag hit the side of the bin with a dull thud. My phone buzzed again. A message from Ethan. Sophie's upset. I'm walking her home first. Stop acting out. I stopped at a red light. Rain streaked down the screen, blurring the words. I typed 2 words. We're done. The message sent just as the light turned green. I stepped forward and kept walking. I didn't look back. When I got back to our apartment, the living room light was still on. Ethan had picked that lamp. He said white light was crisp, good for going over project materials late at night. I bent down to take off my shoes. A small puddle poured out of each one, and my socks clung cold and damp to my feet. The kitchen still had soup warming on the stove. Creamy chicken potato soup. I'd started it that afternoon, simmering it on low for 3 hours. A thin layer of oil floating on the surface. Ethan had a weak stomach. Sophia hated green onions. Our spice rack had always held 2 sets of seasonings. I used to think that was thoughtfulness. Now I knew it was just stupidity. My phone rang. It was Ethan. I answered, put it on speaker, and set it on the dining table. His voice was tight with anger the second he spoke. Layla, what is this supposed to mean? I picked up the soup pot and walked to the sink. Exactly what it says. You're breaking up with me over an umbrella. I poured the soup down the drain. Steam curled up, stinging my eyes. I scraped the bottom of the pot with a spoon. Soft, mushed potato swirled down the drain with the water. It's not about the umbrella. He scoffed. Then what? You can't handle me walking Sophie home. Her parents are out of state. She's a girl working this late. Is there something wrong with me seeing her home safe? I turned on the faucet. The rush of water drowned out his voice. He raised his voice. Layla, turn the water off. Listen to me. I set the pot in the sink and turned off the water. My finger brushed the hot edge of the pot, and a sharp, burning pain flared up. Go on. I'm listening. He let out a breath, his tone shifting to a patronizing sort of patience. You've been so sensitive lately. I know being cooped up at home makes you overthink things, but I'm under a lot of pressure at work. I don't have the energy to coddle you every day. I looked at the dining table. 2 place settings were laid out, one for me, one for him. I'd already scooped rice into his bowl and covered it with a plate to keep it warm. I lifted the plate. The rice had already gone hard and crusty. Ethan, I stayed home because you said you needed someone to handle the odds and ends while you got the company off the ground. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I kept going. I did your expense reports. I transcribed your meeting minutes. I took your parents to their doctor's appointments when they came to the city. I booked the restaurants for your team dinners with Sophia's group. You said my degree wasn't good enough, that I'd embarrass you at your company. So I took freelance gigs and ran the home front for you. And now you say I'm cooped up at home too long. Ethan's breath came heavier. Is there a point to dragging up all the past? I laughed, my voice rough and hoarse from the cold rain. There is. It's more interesting than watching you feed my efforts to Sophie. Sophia's voice drifted through the line. Ethan, don't fight with Lila. This is all my fault. Ethan's voice dropped immediately, soft and gentle. It's not your fault. Sophie. Those 4 words settled in my ears, and the burn on the back of my hand throbbed. Is she still in your car? I asked. I walked her to her building, he said, her blood sugars low. I'm sitting with her until she feels better. I glanced at the clock on the wall. 10:57. I was soaked to the bone, water still dripping from my shoes, and he was sitting in his car with Sophia, waiting for her to feel better. I'm moving out tomorrow at 10 a.m., I said. He reacted like I'd pricked him with a needle. Don't you dare. I paid rent through the end of the month. I won't touch any of your things. I'm only taking mine. Layla. His voice shot up. Don't use breaking up as a threat. It won't work on me. I walked into the bedroom and pulled open the closet. Most of the space was taken up by his suits, shirts, and ties. My clothes were crammed into the corner, like a shadow borrowing space in his life. I pulled my clothes out one by one and tossed them into a suitcase. It's not a threat. It's a notice. Ethan ground his teeth. Fine. Throw your little fit. You'll come back when you're done. Sophia spoke again, soft and sweet. Layla. Don't be impulsive. Ethan has an important meeting tomorrow. Don't throw him off his game. I was holding a scarf. I'd bought it for myself on my birthday. Then Sophia said the color suited Ethan, so I'd let him have it. I dropped the scarf into the trash bag. Sophia. If you care about him so much, take him home with you. Make sure you wake him up at 6:30 every morning. Only half a cup of coffee, antacids after meals. And don't mess up the numbers on page 3 of his proposals. The line went quiet. I kept going. Oh. And his mom hates cilantro. His dad has high blood sugar didn't buy sweet treats for holiday baskets. He throws up next to the bed when he's had too much to drink. And he's mean right after. Ethan roared. Layla, that's enough. I zipped the suitcase shut. The metal zipper screeched. Like something being sewn shut forever. It's not enough. I walked to the entryway and picked up the keychain he'd given me. A little silver bear, with Ellie engraved on its belly. Lila and Ethan. I snapped it hard. One of the bear's legs broke off. The sharp metal edge digging into my palm. A tiny bead of blood welled up. I slipped the key off the ring and set it on the table. I'll leave the fob tomorrow. Ethan, from now on, your stomach aches. Your files. Your parents. Your Sophia, none of it is my business. His voice went low and cold. You'll regret this. I hung up. The only sound left in the apartment was the low hum of the fridge. I peeled off my soaked dress. When the hot water hit my skin, it stung at first. Then slowly warmed me back to life. Steam fogged the mirror. I wiped a spot clear with my hand and stared at the girl in the glass-rimmed eyes. Colorless lips. Red welts on my shoulders from the driving rain. I looked myself dead in the eye and spoke out loud. Slow and steady. Lila Hart, don't look back. At 9:40 the next morning, the moving company arrived. 2 men carried out my boxes of books. A third stood in the living room and asked, Ma'am, what about all these pots and dishes? I glanced toward the kitchen. I'd bought the pots. I'd picked out the dishes. Even the labeled meal prep containers in the fridge had my handwriting on them. Monday through Friday. Low oil. Low salt. Leave them. I said. The man blinked. They're practically new. Give them to the lady downstairs. Whoever wants them can have them. I packed my laptop, my documents, and a few changes of clothes into the last box, then dragged my suitcase to the door. The second I pulled the door open, Ethan was standing there. He must have rushed over. His hair was messy, his shirt collar unbuttoned, dark circles under his eyes. When he saw half the living room empty, his face drained of color. Layla, you're actually serious about this? I set the key fob on the shoe rack. I am. He grabbed the suitcase handle hard. Haven't you had enough of your little tantrum? I looked up at him. Let go. He didn't let go. Instead, he shut the door behind him and blocked my path. I was out of line last night. I'm sorry, but you need to be reasonable about this. I stared at his hand. That same hand had once put band-aids on my cuts when I nicked myself chopping vegetables. That same hand had driven across half the city in the middle of the night to pick up Sophia when she said she was scared of the dark. Hands don't lie. They reach for whoever the heart wants. I don't accept your apology, I said. Ethan's jaw tightened. Layla, don't push your luck. High heels clicked in the hallway outside. A second later, Sophia let herself in. She was carrying breakfast. When she saw the boxes scattered across the floor, she drew in a soft little breath. Layla, you're really moving out. I ignored her. Sophia set the breakfast on the table, then turned to Ethan. Ethan, you should eat something. Your stomach was bothering you all night. Ethan glanced at me, like he was waiting for me to soften. I only asked one question. Who gave her a key to this place? Ethan frowned. She has a spare fob. It's easier for her to drop off files. I laughed. A spare fob. I'd lived here 2 years, and I was only just finding out Sophia had a key to my home. Sophia waved her hands quickly. Layla, don't get the wrong idea. Ethan works so late sometimes. I just stopped by to grab papers for him. I walked to the shoe rack and pulled open the drawer. A pink key fob sat inside, covered in little bunny stickers. I picked it up and tossed it at Ethan's feet. You two really do play house well, don't you? Ethan's face darkened. Layla, stop being snide. I'll be blunt. Then, I pointed straight at Sophia. She has a key to my home. She comes and goes as she pleases. She eats the food I cook. She wears the scarf I bought you. And then she stands in front of me and acts like she's some delicate little flower that'll break if the wind blows too hard. Ours welled up in Sophia's eyes at once. Layla, how can you say that about me? I held up a hand to cut her off. Shut up. I wasn't talking to you. She froze, then turned to look at Ethan. Sure enough, Ethan stepped right in front of her, shielding her. Take it out on me. Don't bully her. I stared at the way he protected her, and the last dull ache in my chest turned to shards of ice. Fine, I'll take it out on you. I unlocked my phone, pulled up my transfer history, and scrolled through it for him to see. Last March, when your mom was in the hospital, I covered $26,000. Last July, when your project was short on cash, I transferred $50,000. You said you'd pay me back in 3 months. This January, when you bought Sophia a new laptop, you charged $12,000 to my secondary credit card. Ethan's face went pale. I'll pay you back every cent. By noon today, I said. He ground his jaw. Layla, do you really have to be this ruthless? I slipped my phone back into my bag. You two taught me. Boundaries matter. Sophia spoke quietly. Layla. The laptop was a birthday gift from Ethan. I had no idea he used your card. I looked at her. Now you know. Transfer the money back. Tears clung to her eyelashes. I'm tight on money right now. I nodded. That's fine. I'll go through legal channels. The fragile, soft look on Sophia's face cracked. Ethan grabbed my wrist hard. Layla, you're going too far. His grip was tight, pressing hard into my bones. I held his gaze. Let go. He didn't move. I picked up my phone and pulled up the emergency call screen. Hold on one more second. And I call the police. Ethan's fingers went stiff. Slowly, he let go. A red ring bloomed around my wrist. He saw it. His Adam's apple bobbed, and his voice dropped. Layla. I didn't mean to. I grabbed my suitcase and walked past him. Whether you meant to or not doesn't matter anymore. The door swung open. Hallway air swept in, carrying away the stale smell of leftover soup and cold rice. Sophia cried behind me. Ethan, did I make you two break up? I glanced back at her. Don't act like you're just a bystander. You didn't cause this. You participated in it. Her cry caught in her throat. As the elevator doors slid shut, I saw Ethan standing in the doorway, still clutching that pink key fob. He was looking at me. And for the first time, he looked scared. I didn't look again. I moved into a small studio apartment in Brooklyn, 300 square feet, with a view of the elevated highway. At night, car lights streaked past like stretched-out threads of light. No Ethan's suits. No Sophia's cups. No 2 sets of seasonings on the rack. I put dark blue sheets on the bed, set my laptop by the window, and took on a freelance brand rebrand project. The client was Ms. Margaret Cole. I'd met her when I was still doing admin work for Ethan. She looked through my portfolio and said, straight out, you spent all this time doing back office work for Ethan Hale. I used to. I said. She tapped her desk. Waste of talent. Your work is cleaner than half the people on his team. Cleaner. That word settled heavier in my chest than any compliment I'd ever heard. The first thing I did after landing the project was log out of every shared account I'd had with Ethan. Email, cloud drive, calendar, expense system. Every time I logged out, a notification popped up on my phone. By 3 o'clock that afternoon, Ethan called. I didn't answer. He texted, did you log out of my cloud drive? I texted back, it was my account. I logged out. I need last year's investor pitch deck. Where did you put it? It's your company. You find it. He went quiet for 10 minutes. Then he called again. I declined. He texted again. Layla. Don't be petty about work. I stared at the screen, my finger hovering for a second. Then typed back. When I don't work, you say I'm cooped up and overthinking. When I do work, you say I'm being petty. You really do love to talk. Ethan Hale. This time. He didn't reply. At 8 that night, I was revising drafts when the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. Ethan was standing outside, holding an insulated bag. He'd found my address. I spoke through the door. Who told you where I live? It was on the moving company receipt. He said. I latched the security chain and opened the door only a crack. He held up the insulated bag. You used to love chicken rice soup from this place. I stared at the bag. Raindrops dotted the plastic, and the shop sticker was wrinkled and wet. Back when I was sick. He never had time to stay with me. He'd just order delivery and make me come downstairs to get it myself. Now he was standing at my door, playing the part of a boyfriend who'd finally learned to take care of someone. I don't want it, I said. He spoke softly. I know I hurt you yesterday. I cut him off. It wasn't just yesterday. He looked up. I pulled the door open a little wider, my voice flat and steady. It was every single time you left me behind. Sophia said she was scared of dogs. So you made me go downstairs in the middle of the night to buy a dog repellent. Sophia said she wanted my beef stew. So you brought her home without even asking me first. I had a 102-degree fever, and you said you were swamped with work. Told me to take a cab to the hospital myself. Halfway there, she said her stomach hurt, and you bailed on your entire video conference for her. Ethan's lips moved. I thought you could take care of yourself. Right, I said. I could. So from now on, I'm only taking care of myself. His fingers tightened around the insulated bag until it crinkled. Layla, don't do this. I smiled. You're calling me the wrong name. It's Ms. Hart from now on. His eyes reddened, his voice rough and thick. You weren't like this before, I said. You stand in the rain long enough. You learn to carry your own umbrella. The hallway light flickered, casting pale, shifting shadows across his face. He set the insulated bag by the door. Just eat it. I'll come back tomorrow. I stared at the bag of soup. Then picked up my phone and called building security. Hi, there's a man loitering outside my apartment. Can you send security up? Ethan's head snapped up. Layla, before I shut the door, I said. Don't come back. Next time I call the police. The door clicked shut. I could hear security talking to him in the hallway soon after. Ethan was speaking in a low, urgent voice. I couldn't make out the words. And I didn't want to. I sat back down at my desk and kept working. Cars hummed outside the window. My keyboard clicked crisp and steady. I worked until 1 in the morning. Then Ms. Cole sent me a message. Come in tomorrow to sign a long-term contract. We'll discuss pay at creative dir. Ector level. I stared at the words, tapping my finger twice against the edge of the desk. Ethan Hale. The back office help you threw away. She's starting to charge premium rates. On signing day, I wore a tailored black suit. My hair was pulled back. My earrings were small and simple. And my heels clicked sharp and clean against the marble floors. Ms. Cole's conference room was on the 26th floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over half the city. She slid the contract across the table. Layla, I won't ask about your personal business with Ethan. I only care about results. If you can deliver, you get paid. I flipped to the salary page. The number was higher than all my freelance gigs from the past 2 years combined. I signed my name, as the pen glided across the paper. The red mark on my wrist had already faded to a faint, pale line. Right after the meeting, her assistant stepped in. Ms. Cole, Mr. Hale from Hale Ventures is here. He asked to see you. Ms. Cole glanced at me. Do you mind? I closed my folder. Not at all. When Ethan walked in, he froze when he saw me sitting next to Ms. Cole. Sophia followed behind him, holding her laptop, her face paler than the last time I'd seen her. Her eyes darted to the contract on the table, then flicked away. Ethan forced a calm tone. Ms. Cole, our team has revised the partnership proposal. Ms. Cole didn't respond. She turned to me instead. Layla, have you seen their last draft? I have, I said. The data sources are messy. The visual system is inconsistent. And there are 3 errors in the competitor analysis. Ethan's face went rigid. Sophia spoke quickly. Ms. Hart, we've fixed all that now. I looked at her. In a professional setting, you can call me Ms. Hart. Her mouth twitched. Ms. Cole almost laughed, lifting her coffee cup to hide it. Ethan took a deep breath. Layla, leave personal feelings out of this. I opened their new proposal. Read only the first page, then pushed it back across the table. Page 1. Market size data from a 3-year-old report. Page 2. User profile cited from the wrong industry. Page 3. Budget spreadsheet formulas aren't fully linked. Sophia went white. That can't be right. I checked everything last night. I turned my laptop toward her. See for yourself. Every error was marked clearly on the screen. No one spoke in the conference room. Ethan's jaw tightened, and he glanced sharply at Sophia. Tears welled in her eyes again. Ethan, I was so tired last night. I must have missed it. That line used to make Ethan step in front of her every single time. This time, Ms. Cole spoke first. Mr. Hale, if your team can't even get basic data right, I have a hard time trusting you with execution. Ethan swallowed hard. Ms. Cole, we can submit another version. Ms. Cole looked at me. Layla, what do you think? Your timeline is tight, I said. I wouldn't waste time on reworks. Ethan whipped his head toward me, anger burning in his eyes. Layla, are you really doing this? I leaned back in my chair. Mr. Hale, I'm doing my job. The two words stopped him cold. His face flushed and paled by turns. Sophia whispered, Layla, you know how much this partnership means to Ethan. I stared her down. So what? Am I supposed to fix it for you and hand you the money too? She fell silent. Ms. Cole set down her coffee cup. Mr. Hale, I think we're done here for today. Ethan stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly against the floor. At the door, he looked back at me. You've gotten so cruel. Layla, I flipped open my new contract. Not looking up. You never complained when you were leeching off me. The conference room door clicked shut. The assistant snickered, then quickly ducked her head. Ms. Cole looked at me. Well put. Just the truth, I said. By afternoon, word had spread around the industry that Ethan's company had lost Ms. Cole's account. At 10 that night, he sent me a photo. It was that bag of soup, still untouched by my door. The plastic bag wrinkled and crumpled from the wind. He texted, you really don't care about any of the past. I texted back, no. He texted again, my stomach hurts. I stared at those 3 words. I remembered having a 102-degree fever, waiting in the ER waiting room, a bruise blooming on the back of my hand from the 4. All he'd sent back was drink more water. I typed, go to the hospital, don't die on my doorstep. After hitting send, I blocked him. Sophia struck back fast. The next afternoon, people were whispering in the office kitchen, heard the new Ms. Hart used to date Mr. Hale, stealing your ex's client after a breakup. That's low. Sophia posted on Instagram, said someone's using personal drama to poach projects. I walked in with my coffee, and all 3 of them went quiet at once. I set my mug down on the counter. Go on, I'm listening. One intern's face went bright red, and she fumbled for her phone. I held out my hand. Let me see the post. She hesitated. If you don't show me, I'll have legal pull security footage and find out who's spreading false information in the office. She handed me her phone. Sophia had posted a 9-photo grid. The middle one was a picture of me and Ethan in the conference room, shot from a bad angle, making it look like I was staring at him and smiling. The caption read, some people can't win at love, so they try to win at work. It's sad watching hardworking people get stabbed in the back by an ex. The comments were full of support. I screenshot the post and sent it to the company legal team. Ms. Cole asked if I wanted to keep it low-key. No, I said. Handle it publicly. At 4:30, Sophia stormed up to our front desk. She was dressed all in white, her eyes red and puffy. The second she saw me, she burst into tears. Layla, are you trying to ruin my life? Everyone at the front desk, the security guard, every passing coworker, all of them looked over. She'd picked her spot well. Lots of people, lots of cameras, lots of noise. If I so much as raised my voice, she could play the victim. I walked up to her and turned on my phone's voice recorder. Sophia, you posted my photo publicly and implied I stole a client out of spite. You've damaged my professional reputation. I'm pursuing legal action. Is there a problem with that? She sniffled. I didn't name you. I pulled up the screenshot. That's me in the photo. You liked 3 comments calling me names. Her lips trembled. I kept going. You wanted me to back down in front of all these people. You wanted me to say forget it, so you could post later and say I was guilty. Her face went stiff. People around us pulled out their phones to record. Sophia stepped back, tears spilling over. Layla, we've known each other so long. How can you think so badly of me? I leaned in. My voice low but loud enough for the front desk to hear. Because you are that bad. Her breath caught. I raised my voice. You had a key to my home. You charged things to my credit card. You ate the food I cooked. You wore the scarf I bought him. And then you turn around and call me the thief. You're not delicate, Sophia. You're just greedy. The girl at the front desk's eyes went wide. All the color drained from Sophia's face. She tried to cry harder, but the tears got stuck. Only her lips shook. I handed her the hard copy of the cease and desist letter. Take it. Public apology and damages within 7 days. Or we file suit. She didn't take it. The paper fell to the floor. I bent down, picked it up, brushed off the dust, and pressed it into her hand. And don't fake passing out. The floor's cold. You'll have to pay your own hospital bill if you fall. She finally snapped, voice shrill. You're just jealous he cares about me more. How dare you humiliate me like this? I laughed. Because I have proof. Because you ran your mouth. Because you thought crying would make the whole world step aside for you. Her tears stopped dead. Security came over to escort her out. They led her toward the door. A strand of hair came loose. Her heel wobbled. And she nearly tripped. At the entrance, she looked back and glared at me. There was nothing soft in her eyes anymore, only venom. I held up my phone and waved it slightly. Still recording. Keep going. She immediately dropped her gaze. That afternoon, Sophia deleted her post. That night, she posted a public apology. The words were stiff and dry, like someone had held her down and made her write it. I didn't like it. I just saved the screenshot to a folder. The folder was named Trash Toxic People. Ethan disbanded the original project team. A friend in the industry sent me the news. He said Ethan had been a mess lately, missing points in meetings, fumbling for attachments when clients asked about budgets. He'd call Sophia in, and she'd misstate the numbers right there in the room. The client had left furious. I read the message and didn't reply. My new project was heading into launch week, and I was swamped from morning to night. Back then, all Ethan had to do was walk in the door and say he was hungry, and I'd get up from my desk and make him noodles. Now when I was hungry, I ordered spicy beef noodle soup for myself, ate it, and went right back to work. At 11 o'clock at night, the office lights were still on. Ms. Cole set a cup of hot tea down next to me. Don't burn yourself out. I burned myself out on the wrong things before, I said. I'm making up for it now. She patted my shoulder and didn't ask any more questions. The day before the launch event, Ethan showed up again. He was waiting downstairs by the building entrance, holding a file folder. The second I walked out, he hurried over. Layla, I found out Sophie didn't mean that Instagram post. She was just upset. I stopped walking. You came all this way to defend her? No, he said quickly. I came to talk about us. I checked my phone. My rideshare was 3 minutes away. You've got 2 minutes. A flicker of hope crossed Ethan's face. I've been thinking a lot these past few days. I took you for granted. I thought you'd always be there. 1 minute, I said. His voice tightened. There's really nothing between Sophie and me. She's just like a sister to me. She never had anyone to look out for her growing up. I got used to it, I said. If she never had anyone to look out for her, that's not my problem. He froze. I kept going. If you want to be her big brother, be her big brother. But don't use my life to pay for your sibling act. Ethan's eyes reddened. Layla, I know I was wrong. I looked at him. The umbrella in the rain. The car that never came when I had a fever. The pink key fob in my home, they all drifted through my mind. No sharp pain anymore. Just cold. Where were you wrong? He rushed to answer. I shouldn't have let you stand in the rain. I shouldn't have given Sophie a key. I shouldn't have called you dramatic. I shook my head. It's more than that. His lips went pale. You were wrong to think I'd never leave. I said. You loved having me take care of you, but you looked down on me for doing it. You used my work to build your road, then complained I had mud on my shoes. He swallowed hard, unable to say a word. My ride pulled up. I reached for the door, but he suddenly reached out to stop me. Give me one more chance. I stepped back. Out of his reach. Chances aren't leftovers you can reheat. The light in his eyes shattered. Piece by piece, I got in the car and shut the door. As the window rolled up, he was still standing on the curb. The file folder slipped from his hand, and papers scattered everywhere. The wind blew them open. I caught a glimpse of one Pagea handwritten apology letter, page after page, covered in dense, messy writing. As the car pulled away, I saw him in the rearview mirror, crouching down to pick up the papers, his knees pressed into a puddle, and his suit pants soaked through. I didn't feel the slightest urge to get out and help him. Launch day arrived. The venue was packed. I stood backstage, listening to the MC call my name. Lights flooded the stage, and applause rolled up from the crowd. I walked out and presented the visual concept, the user strategy, the brand reimagining. People in the audience took photos. People nodded along. I saw Ms. Cole in the front row, giving me a quiet thumbs up. In that moment, my palms were sweaty, but my voice was so steady it surprised even me. After the presentation, Ms. Cole publicly announced an annual partnership with my studio. The applause grew louder. I held the contract, my fingertips pressing into the paper. Turns out I wasn't meant to stand in a kitchen, waiting for someone to come home. That night, Ethan's company official account was flooded with comments about clients dropping their contracts. Someone asked, "Why does Mr. Hale keep losing projects?" Someone replied, "Heard his ex was the one actually running the core work." I didn't share any of it. I only posted a photo of my studio business license. 4 words in the caption, "Fresh start." The real turning point came a week after the launch. Ms. Cole called me into her office, her face grave. She dropped a competitor's proposal on the desk. "Layla, this has our confidential budget sheet and launch timeline in it." I flipped through a few pages, my finger stopping on page 3. I'd made that sheet myself. The version number, the hidden comments, the test typus, all of it was there. I looked up. Who got this? The competitor reached out this morning to test the waters. Ms. Cole said, asked if we were quoting in the same range. The office air conditioning was cold, and the paper felt cool and stiff against my palm. My first thought wasn't fear, it was disgust. Ethan had had access to my accounts. Sophia knew all my habits. Ms. Cole looked at me. "The company will pull access logs. I need you to cooperate fully." "Of course," I said. The investigation moved fast. IT pulled the cloud drive access logs. At 1:17 a.m., someone had accessed the project files using my old device authorization. Device name, by MacBook. Ethan's laptop. The IP address traced back to his office. Worse, half an hour after that access, Sophia's email sent an encrypted attachment to an external address, the project manager at the competing firm. In the conference room, the IT lead projected the logs onto the screen. Ethan sat across from us, his face ashen. Sophia sat next to him, twisting the hem of her shirt in her fingers. I stared at the screen and spoke first. "Mr. Hale, care to explain?" Ethan spoke immediately. "I didn't leak anything. I just wanted to check how your proposal was coming along." Ms. Cole's voice was cold. "Accessing our confidential partner files without authorization is a violation on its own." Ethan looked at me. "Layla, I was just worried you were being taken advantage of." I almost laughed out loud. "You snuck a look at my work, and you were worried about me." Sophia suddenly burst into tears. "It was me. I used Ethan's computer." Ethan whipped his head around. "Sophie." She was gasping for breath between sobs. "I just wanted to help Ethan win the project back. I didn't know it would be this bad. I thought it was just for reference." I stared her down. "Sending a confidential budget sheet to a competitor is reference." She cried harder, shoulders shaking. "I didn't know it was confidential." The IT lead pointed at the screen. "The file name says confidential. There's a watermark when you open it. There was a risk confirmation pop-up when you downloaded it." Sophia's sobs cut off abruptly. All the color drained from Ethan's face. I asked him, "Why does she have access to your computer?" His lips moved. "She knows my password." I asked again, "Why didn't you revoke my old device authorization?" He looked away. I finished the thought for him. "Because you kept it on purpose, so you could snoop on my things whenever you wanted." The conference room was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning hum. Ms. Cole closed her file. "We will be contacting the police and filing a civil claim for damages." Sophia shot to her feet. "No, you can't call the police." She threw herself at Ethan, grabbing his arm. "Ethan, Say something. I didn't mean to, I swear. Ethan shook her off hard. Sophia stumbled back into a chair, the back of her hand hitting the corner of the table. It turned red at once. She stared at him, stunned. It was the first time he'd ever pushed her away in public. Ethan's voice was shaking. Why would you do that? Sophia snapped. I did it for you. If you hadn't kept going on about Lila, about how good her work was, I never would have done it. Her voice was shrill, the soft, sweet mask completely torn away. And now you're blaming me. You gave me the password. You kept her authorization active. You're the one who told me all her little habits. Ethan froze where he sat. I stood up slowly. Are you done? Sophia glared at me, hatred burning in her eyes. Happy now? You were just waiting for us to mess up. I walked over to her. She flinched back automatically. I raised my hand and slapped a sheet of paper against her chest. That's the list of documents you'll need for the police report. Read it carefully. She glanced down, and her hands started shaking. Sophia, you love playing the helpless little thing, don't you? I said. Go play it for the police. Go play it for the judge. Her legs gave out, and she sank back into her chair. Ethan looked at me, his voice rough and broken. Layla, please don't call the police. I'll pay for everything, whatever it costs. I looked at him. This was the same man who'd tilted the umbrella towards someone else in the rain and told me not to make a scene. Now he stood in a bright, white conference room, begging me not to make things worse. No, I said. After the police opened an investigation, Ethan and Sophia were brought in for questioning. Since the scope of the trade secret violation, the amount of damages, and the question of intent all needed verification. The process moved slowly, but in the industry, word traveled fast, and their reputations crumbled before the legal system even ruled. Sophia was suspended from her job. Ethan was ordered by the board to step back from all core projects pending the investigation's outcome. His startup had only ever hung on by a thread, supported by a handful of clients. When news of the data leak broke, 2 prospective clients pulled out immediately. Morale in the employee group chat collapsed. People were updating their resumes overnight. I didn't do anything to make it worse. The evidence spoke for itself. The lawyers spoke for themselves. The market would speak too. 2 weeks later, Sophia cornered me outside the police station. It was raining that afternoon, not hard, just a fine, steady drizzle. She didn't have an umbrella. Her hair was plastered to her face, dark circles under her eyes. When she saw me, she lunged forward, but the security guard stopped her. Layla, I'm begging you, drop the charges. Her voice was rough, like sandpaper. I stood on the steps under my umbrella and looked down at her. No. She reached out past the guard, 2 of her nails broken, bruises still on the back of her hand from the conference room. I can't have a record. My parents will kill me. I'll never get a job again. I said. Your hand seemed pretty steady when you sent that file. She shook her head, crying harder. Ethan put me up to it. He kept saying you'd never leave him. He said you'd always clean up his messes. I thought you'd let it slide this time too. I laughed. So you knew it was wrong. You just gambled I'd swallow it. Sophia's face twisted. Suddenly, she dropped to her knees. Her knees hit the wet steps with a dull thud. Passers-by turned to stare. She grabbed the security guard's pant leg and screamed at me through her tears. I'm on my knees. Please, just let me go. Rain pattered soft against my umbrella. I watched her kneel there in the mud, her white dress soaked through and dirty, clinging to her legs. Her hair stuck to her face. She looked so wretched. Nothing like the delicate little flower she'd pretended to be. You think kneeling makes up for a crime? I asked. She looked up, tears and rain mixing on her face. I know I was wrong. Then face the consequences. Her expression shattered, and her voice turned sharp and ugly. How can you be so cruel? You just want to destroy me. I crouched down, eye level with her. The edge of my umbrella kept the rain off half of her, but she was still soaked. Sophia, you seemed pretty happy when you were destroying me. Her pupils dilated. I kept going. You were happy when you posted those lies about me. You were happy when you let yourself into my home. You were happy when you charged gifts to my card. And you were even happier when you stole those files. Now it's your turn to hurt. What are you screaming about? Her lips trembled, her gaze shifting from pleading to venomous. Go to hell. Lila Hart. The security guard's face tightened. I stood up and saved the recording. That one's going to the lawyer too. Sophia went completely still, then collapsed like all the bones had been pulled out of her. Sitting in the rain, I turned and walked down the steps. Behind me, she beat her fists against the ground, sobbing. Palm after palm slapped into the puddles, mud splattering up onto her skirt. I didn't look back. Ethan came to see me that night. He'd lost a noticeable amount of weight. He hadn't shaved. His eyes were bloodshot, and his right hand was wrapped in a bandage. A friend had told me he'd crashed into a guardrail in the rain a few days prior, driving to a client's office to beg for their business back. His right hand was fractured. The front of his car totaled. He'd walked away mostly unhurt. When I opened the door, he was standing in the hallway, reeking of alcohol. The second he saw me, tears rolled down his face. "Layla, it's over for me." I looked at him. "Congratulations." He leaned against the wall, swaying a little. "The company's falling apart. Clients are gone. The board's forcing me out. Sophie's throwing me under the bus for everything." I said, "You two deserve each other." He suddenly raised a hand and slapped himself across the face. The crack echoed down the hallway. I didn't move. He slapped himself again. His cheek swelled fast, and blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. "I was wrong. I was so wrong. I never should have treated you like that." He was crying so hard his shoulders shook, and slowly, his knees began to bend. I stepped back. "Don't kneel at my door. It's disgusting." His knees froze mid-fall, his whole body going rigid. "Ethan, this is just the start of what you deserve," I said. "Don't start crying yet." I shut the door. On the other side, his muffled sobs went on and on for a long time. I put on my headphones, opened my laptop, and kept working on my budget sheet. Before the criminal case concluded, the civil side made progress. The competing firm admitted to receiving the file from Sophia but claimed they never used it. Our lawyer presented the timeline, pricing records, and email attachments, demanding they delete all data, issue a public clarification, and pay breach of contract damages. Sophia, as the direct sender, was fired from her company and blacklisted across the industry. Ethan, for failing to secure his computer and accessing our files without authorization, wasn't found directly responsible for the leak but bore significant fault. The board voted him out of management, and his shares were bought back at a steep discount to cover damages. On the criminal side, police continued investigating the trade secret violation. Sophia was released on bail, awaiting prosecution. The legal process didn't wrap up in a day, like it does on TV, but her life had already collapsed. She'd given up her apartment. Her credit cards were past due. Her parents came in from out of state and slapped her across the face right outside the police station. Someone filmed it, and the video spread fast. In the clip, her mother pointed and screamed, "You've been stealing from people since you were a kid, and now you've gone and ruined everything." Sophia stood there in the crowd, covering her face, shaking. I watched 2 seconds of it and closed the video. Not out of mercy. I just found the noise annoying. Ethan had it worse. His company was acquired. He went from founder to man in debt. He'd always cared so much about appearances. Now he ran from client to client in a wrinkle-edged shirt, his right hand in a splint, his signature crooked and wobbly. Someone snapped a photo of him at a business drinking dinner. The other man pressed a glass to his mouth. "Mr. Hale used to be so high and mighty, didn't he? Drink up. Then we'll talk." He held the glass, his Adam's apple bobbing up and down. Wine spilled down his shirt. He bent over and smiled, apologetic. Then his stomach acted up. He doubled over, clutching his abdomen, and threw up right outside the bathroom. The other man stepped back, disgusted. In the video, Ethan was on his knees on the tile floor, braced on his hands, heaving until the veins stood out on his forehead, tears and snot running down his face. I watched it and thought, karma finally found him. Ms. Cole asked me, "Do you want to see him one last time?" He's been waiting downstairs for 3 days. I walked to the window. Down in the plaza, Ethan was sitting on the edge of a flower bed. His right arm was in a sling, and in his left hand he clutched an old keychain, the little silver bear. One leg broken off. He'd picked it up after all. "I'll see him," I said, not to give him a chance to bury the girl I used to be. When I went downstairs, The wind was strong, blowing leaves skittering across the pavement. Ethan saw me and stood up at once. So fast he swayed a little. His cheekbones were sharp, his eyes sunken, his lips dry and cracked. "Layla," I said. "It's Ms. Hart." He swallowed hard, his voice dropping. "Ms. Hart, I came to pay you back." He held out a bank card and a transfer receipt. "Everything you gave me. I put it all together, plus interest." I took it, checked the amount, and slipped it into my bag. "Received." He watched me put it away, a faint, desperate light in his eyes. Then, "Can we start over?" I looked up at him. His fingers were shaking. He squeezed the broken bear keychain so hard it creaked. "I have nothing left now. I finally see how much you gave me," I said. "You don't see how precious it was. You just have no one left to leech off of." His face went paper white. I kept going. "Ethan, you didn't lose the woman you loved. You lost a free housekeeper, an emotional punching bag, and a built-in project assistant." His lips trembled. "That's not true. I loved you." I stared at him, and suddenly it all felt absurd. "You loved me, so you made me stand in the rain. You loved me, so you gave Sophie a key to our home. You loved me, so you sat with Sophie when she had a stomachache while I had a fever. You loved me, so you snuck a look at my work files." With every sentence, he stepped back another half step. Finally, his back hit the flower bed, and he sat down hard. He buried his face in his hands, sobs pushing out between his fingers. "Stop, please stop talking." I crouched down and pulled the broken bear keychain out of his hand. He looked up at once, panic in his eyes. "Don't take it. It's all I have left of you." I snapped it hard. The bear's other leg broke off. The sharp metal edge scraped my palm. A small, stinging pain. I dropped the pieces into the nearby trash can. "Now you have nothing." Ethan stared at the trash can, his mouth opening and closing, a low whimper catching in his throat. He reached in to grab it, but the splint on his right hand hit the edge of the bin, and his face twisted with pain. Still, he bent further, his left hand gripping the edge of the trash can, like he was trying to fish that worthless little trinket back out. People in the plaza stared. Ethan Hale, who'd once cared so much about his dignity, was half kneeling by a trash can, his shirt wrinkled, tears hitting the pavement. Muttering my name over and over, I stood up and wiped the tiny spot of blood off my palm. "Ethan, your regret is your problem. I don't recycle garbage." He looked up at me, his eyes completely empty. I turned and walked back into the building. The glass doors slid shut behind me, locking his sobs outside. The last time Sophia found me was outside the court mediation room. She was gaunt, almost unrecognizable. Her hair was cut short, her skin sallow, a string of cheap beads on her wrist. When she saw me, she stood up so fast her legs wobbled. She had to grab the wall to steady herself. "Layla, I'll apologize publicly. I'll pay the damages in installments. Can you talk to Ms. Cole? Get her to lower the amount." I looked at her. No. Tears welled in her eyes again. This time, no one was there to hand her a tissue. "I got fired. No one in the industry will hire me. My parents won't talk to me," I said. "That's your problem." She squeezed the paper cup in her hand until the rim crumpled, water spilling between her fingers. "Don't you feel even a little bad for me?" I laughed. "The sad part is, you still think someone else should clean up your messes." She ground her teeth. "I wouldn't be like this if Ethan hadn't favored me. Ethan favoring you was his fault. You reaching out and taking things was yours." She stared at me, bloodshot eyes boring into mine. "You have everything now. Why can't you just let me go?" I leaned in, my voice very quiet. "Because I don't forgive and forget." She froze. "I remember every single thing you two did to me," I said. "The rain, the key, the credit card, the lies, the stolen files. I'm not a saint. I'm here to collect what's mine." The paper cup slipped out of Sophia's hand and hit the floor, water spilling everywhere. Once mediation started, she tried to blame Ethan for everything. Over and over, Ethan sat on the other side, his face gray and lifeless. When she said Ethan knew all about it, he looked up sharply. "Sophia, are you really going to throw me under the bus?" Sophia's voice was shrill. "You're the one who left her account logged in. How else would I have gotten in?" Ethan's eyes were red. "You're the one who sent it to the competitor. Who do you think I did it for?" "You did it for yourself." The two of them screamed at each other right there in front of the lawyers and the mediator. Once, one had played the delicate innocent, the other the protective hero. Now neither could protect anyone. They just tore each other apart. I sat across the table, flipping through the damage list. The mediator banged the table. Quiet. Sophia suddenly covered her face and cried. I can't live like this. I just can't. No one said anything. She cried for half a minute, realized no one was going to comfort her, and slowly trailed off into quiet sniffles. Ethan looked at her, disgust plain on his face. How did I ever think you were sweet? Sophia looked up and laughed, shaking. And you think you're so much better. You loved having me hang off your arm. And you loved having Lila wait on you hand and foot. Don't act like you're the victim now. It hit home. Ethan's face flushed and paled by turns. Then he dropped his head, his shoulders slumping. He let out a low, bitter laugh. Then tears fell onto the table. Yeah, I deserve this. Mediation ended. The damage amount didn't go down. When Sophia walked out, she missed a step and fell hard on the stairs. She hit her knee bad. She curled up in pain, unable to get up for a long time. Ethan walked right past her. He didn't even pause. She called after him, Ethan. His back stiffened for a second. Then he kept walking. Sophia lay on the ground, her palms scraped raw, blood mixing with dirt, tears dripping one by one onto the concrete. She finally knew what it felt like to be left behind. I walked past her under my umbrella. She reached for my pant leg. I stepped away. Don't touch me. Her hand fell empty, her fingers scraping into the dirt. I walked down the steps. The rain had stopped. A thin streak of light broke through the clouds. A year later, my studio had moved twice. First from the tiny studio to a co-working space, then to this current office with its own rooftop terrace. Trees grew outside the window. In the afternoon, sunlight fell across my desk, gilding the edges of every document. I'd hired 3 people, a designer, a strategist, a business development manager. Every payday, I personally confirmed every transfer. Pay on time, boundaries clear, stand on your own 2 feet. Ms. Cole was still my biggest client, and we'd become friends too. She asked me once, will you ever date again? I don't have time, I said. She laughed. Good. Chase money first. I clinked my glass against hers. Chasing money keeps you out of the rain. Ethan sold his car later and moved out of his old apartment. I heard he'd taken a project manager job at a small company out of state. The pay was decent, but no one called him Mr. Hale anymore. After his hand healed, his handwriting was always a little shaky. I saw him once at an industry conference. From far away, he was wearing an old suit, standing in the corner of the venue, holding a paper cup. When someone mentioned my studio, his hand jerked, and water spilled down his cuff. He didn't come over. He just stood there, watching me across the crowd. For a very long time, I turned and shook a client's hand. I didn't even glance his way. Sophia's case concluded with civil damages and the corresponding administrative and legal consequences. No one in the industry talked about the details much anymore. She left the city, deep in debt. Some said she'd gone back home for a blind date, but the guy found out about her past and walked out mid-meeting. Some said she worked a desk job at a tiny company, and the boss wouldn't let her near any confidential files. When those stories reached me, they were just wind blowing past on the street. When the first rain of winter fell, I worked late. I was the only one left in the office. Rain tapped against the glass, steady and soft. I stood by the window and watched someone downstairs meet their partner with an umbrella. They tilted the umbrella toward the other person. I watched for 2 seconds. No ache in my chest, no bitterness. I just thought back to that rainy night, standing at the office entrance, clutching a box of antacids, watching Ethan hold the only umbrella over Sophia's head. That rain had woken me up. My phone lit up on the desk. A bank notification. The final payment for the annual project had come in. I stared at the number and smiled a little. There was a knock at the door. Mia, my employee, poked her head in. Layla, you still here? I grabbed my coat. Leaving now. She glanced out the window. It's pouring. I didn't bring an umbrella. I pulled 2 umbrellas out of the cabinet and handed her one. She blinked. Why do you have so many spares? I said. When you've stood in the rain long enough, you learn to keep your own umbrella. The elevator took us down to the first floor. Damp, misty air hit us the second we stepped outside. I opened my umbrella. The frame clicked firmly into place. Rain hit the canopy. Held completely at bay, I walked out into the rain, my heels stepping through puddles, water splashing lightly against my ankles. A little ways off, the big mall screen was playing a brand ad my studio had worked on. The scene shifted, and my name appeared in the end credits. Lila Hart. The letters glowed for a few seconds, then melted back into the city lights. I stood on the curb waiting for my ride. Wind blew, fine rain drifting against the edge of the umbrella. This time, I wasn't standing outside anyone else's umbrella. My umbrella was in my own hand, and my path was under my own feet.